Hi, this is Eli Ocheltree of the SnoKing Beekeepers Association. This is the first organizational planning meeting on a Thursday before Saturday when we actually go into the hives. And this workshop runs about 2 months for us to get through everything. The first like 4 or 5 weeks go really fast, and there's a lot of different things that need to be done. And then after that, we maintain. We do a lot of maintenance while we're proofing our queens. So we will start with just the picture, the overview picture. I'm going to talk paperwork. I'm going to talk planning. I'm going to talk what the prep work we have to do. I think in some ways this is kind of boring because we're not going to graft yet. I'll talk about grafting like right before we do it, mating up the cell builders right before we do it, making up the mating nukes right before we do it. I'm going to break down the prep and the organization into about six short videos that will get us through the steps. But the first step is it's really helped to keep records, and it's really helped if people know what we're doing. And I'm so happy to see so many of you returning from last year because it sounds simple. What we're doing, hey, the bees have been raising queens for over 100 million years, so they know how to do it. But when we would like to sort of guide them or micromanage them, we have to go with them. And to do that, we need to kind of understand bees, and we have to work around our schedules. And the bees love to make queens in the spring, early summer. And that means during swarm season, well, they're making queens. I mean, why make a queen if you're not going to split the hive? And then they like the good weather when we could finally go out and do all those activities that we have waited in the soggy, cold, damp winter, like 6 months for. Okay, so all that's happening. End of the academic year is happening. That first promise of we can get away for a weekend. And although we love going camping in the pouring rain with the drip, drip, drip from the trees on the tent while we're trying to keep the kids happy inside, and everything we own is ziplocked in the hopes that we can keep it dry. Okay, I'm sorry, off tangent. But we are squeezing this queen rearing workshop in, right? Okay. And I don't want to lose the focus while I'm talking about paperwork and organization and boring stuff today, that we are trying to get from the left side of this slide to the right side. We have queens that we know are good. They overwintered. We have hives that have overwintered. We bought for the queen rearing workshop, we had to buy nukes to boost because I looked at having enough brood again this year. It was tight the last 2 years. It's hard to have enough brood when it just warmed up. And we are supposed to be setting up mating nukes with frames of brood in them in a month. We'll go through the schedule. We can take a look at how many weeks we have. We're trying to get from that queen that we know we would love to have offspring queens, daughter queens off her eggs as they eclose. And if we want more than just one or two, and if we don't want to have to just split the whole hive and the bees can raise one, but each large hive we split, we're tying up a whole bunch of bees that aren't getting big enough for the honey flow, and the big flow can start in just a month, especially in a lot of areas. And we would really like that surplus honey, which we can't get as easily if we cut all of our hives that overwintered beautifully in half too early before that big flow. So we start there on the left, and then we are going to trick the queen somewhat and the bees by, instead of doing it the way the bees naturally do it, which is split the hive in half. And when you're a beginning beekeeper, that's the first way you raise a queen. Probably everybody in here has just said the hive is too big. I'm afraid it's going to swarm. Maybe you see swarm cells and you split the hive in half. Queen gets one half of the brood stores, etc., and the queen cells, or you buy a queen, or you just wait for the bees to make their own from the eclosing eggs. We don't say hatching because everyone says we can't say hatching anymore. They don't have shells. The eggs do not eclose into the small larvae that we are going to transfer, as this woman is doing with lights and very carefully. And she must have excellent eyes because she's not using a magnifying glass. And she's transferring those eclosing eggs into little cups. in green wearing, we'll do that. Everybody who wants to try to sit there, it's really fun as you're saying, I can't believe you're supposed to do this. And some people can just do it. Just beautifully. I mean, and some of us can do it if we struggle. And some people say, you've got to be kidding and walk out. I mean, seriously, which is a good experience. Don't buy $100 worth of grafting equipment before you decide if you would like to do it. So come try it. We've got a half dozen little types of tools. And my favorite is not this one they're using here, which is the Chinese plunger one. I actually like the little, it's like a dental instrument is what it's kind of like. And yeah, I like that one. But even easier is we get that queen over there on the left with that cute little butt. We get her to stick her little tush into the cups that you see laid out here, right below the woman who's scooping, is the other system called the cassette system. And this works marvelously if you follow every single step and don't skip any steps. You do it absolutely right. And a man wrote the book on this. His name is Grant Gillard, and I send it out, and I've got it again later in the slides. You can get it from Kindle, and he tells you it should be easy to raise queens, but it's the deadlines, the timelines, the time points, the not skipping steps. That's what makes you a success. It should be easy, and it doesn't have to be expensive. Well, either way, you take either the ones where you put the little closing egg in, or you've got the queen to lay in the cup for you with her little tush down, putting the egg right there where you want it. And either case, you take those cups, you put them on bars. Here's upper right. That's Melanie putting them, she put them on the bars. And she's actually pretty good at it. But like me, she has to work to get a high rate of transfer. Really excruciatingly, we have to really work at it, and we both can do it. Some people walk in and do it. So if you're one of those, hey, we'd love to have you back maybe partway through the queen rearing workshop, and you could just do it again for us, and we could have extra queens to give out. And then after these grow out, each of these little larvae that's in one of those cups, it's upside down, which you turn over, and when you turn them over, put them in a hopelessly queenless hive, then the bees that are in there go, we don't have a queen. We need a queen. Oh, let's make a bunch of queens. And so they make dozens of queens for you. And you have tricked the bees into not just making a few queens and splitting the hive. You have tricked them into making lots of queens for you. And each of those you can take, and this lowest right picture is actually one of those queen cups that you see up above. Oops, up above is actually kind of stuck into a brood cell. It's a whole frame of capped worker brood, perfect place to put the queen cell that the first hive developed because it was hopelessly queenless. And this one is again queenless and would love to help that queen emerge and take over and mate. Don't lose track of this slide because I'm going to talk a lot about boring paperwork that I have been really working on to make it as smooth as possible. I do need these things from you. Anybody who didn't actually sign up on the application online, says Queen Workshop application, it really helps me if you want to continue to get this email. I just sent it out to like 60, 70 people and said, hey, you interested? You came last year or whatever. But if you could fill out that application, you are in the cut and paste and send the weekly emails out to you. You will not get forgotten. You will not be skipped if you do that. If not, it can be kind of hit or miss. And as always, email is the best way. If you need me to do something, write an email. Text is kind of nice, except that I'll forget and it gets lost. And write an email and you're in my email queue and I will get to you sometimes a week later, but I will get to you. If it's urgent, call or text as well, and then send the email. Now, we've set this up so that everybody of every experience level can come. Some of you might be a little bored, but if what I say today, if some of it's below your level, stop and say, wait, if I was mentoring someone, I would have to say this too. So if you're more experienced, look at this as I would have to to explain this also, and this is one way I could do it. And when you actually sign in and out, journeyman service hours for mentoring, if you are helping other people with how to keep bees, even if you do it at the apiary, that is mentoring hours. You can only get so many hours in one category. And at the fair, a lot of people get theirs at the fair, or as a officer in a club, you still need the other half of your 35 service credits. So that's an important consideration. So when you get a little bit bored, say, well, I would say that better, and have it be ready to explain how you would do it. So we have everybody from absolute beginners. I think there's even one or two people that come who've never seen bees before, and I say, that's fine. Let's just make sure the suit's fitting you, you are covered up, and you can come in and see, is this something I would ever want to do? As a lot of us know, we have met somebody who they hold bees, they are near thousands of stinging insects for the first time, and that's it. They can't get out of there fast enough. It happens, and it's a good way to find out. It's one of the most, if they join the club and pay $30 dues and come, if they even do that and find out that they don't want to do this, great. They saved a lot of money, a lot of pain, a lot of headache, and maybe some embarrassment too. We do have a liability waiver. We've never had one. We are 6 years old as a club. We've never had one. So we now have one, and it's a bunch of legalese. And if you want to write a better one, go ahead. I looked and I said, oh, this one's so sufficiently legalese, it should cover us. Please just sign it. Sign Up Genius the link was in the email I sent out. And we especially did it for Saturdays. But if you can come midweek, you are a very prized person. There are a number of things that can't be done on an every 7-day schedule. Funny, bees don't work on an every 7-day schedule. As we have noticed, when we go to say, oh, it's too cold when I get home from work, I can't take a day off, or I'll get to them next week. And it's too late for whatever purpose. Often they've already swarmed because they couldn't wait 7 days. Bees don't work on our Gregorian calendar. If you can do midweek, that really helps because there's a number of things. And for example, if our first set of hand grafts don't take and we'd like more, and you're good at it and you can come midweek and redo them for us. I have some pictures of bloopers that we will talk about when we get to grafting, which can't cover everything at one time. So log in, log out. Each 5 hours you help, we will come up with a queen for you. You might have to wait till the end of the line, depending. Whoever earns their 5 hours first, that's what I did. I called them first or emailed them first. And some people don't need a queen. They're totally here for the experience. But if you would like one, or you have a friend that would like one, and you help log in, log out so we know how many hours you were here. Journeyman service hours, mentoring. And it's a nice extra category. If you have finished your apprentice, you can call it journeyman service hours. If you can make it to these meetings, great. I'll write them up and either email them out or post them. I'm still figuring that out. Maybe both. And we are recording. Wear your own bee jacket. We're not going to worry about that. We were just talking about how disease spreads from apiary to apiary. Bee jacket shouldn't look as bad as mine usually looks. Being a short-armed person, when I pick things up, I hug them, and I end up with propolis all over the front of my suit and everything. But we have some spares. You forget it, don't turn around and drive all the way home. We could probably get you one. But don't bring tools and your gloves. The exception for gloves is if you are super sensitive for some reason to bee stings. There's like 1 or 2 exceptions that we've run across, or we absolutely do not have a glove that will fit you. One person, I cannot fit Ed. Sorry. Ed, if Ed comes, you are welcome to come, and you can just bring your own gloves. But hive tools especially go right into the brood nest. And most diseases are brood diseases. And you are just going to, without thinking about it, transfer. It's too easy. If you ever go to anyone else's apiary to help them out. Don't take your own tools and use disposable gloves. If you don't want to be blamed and you wouldn't want to help them go back to your hive and the next day something's wrong with your hive. And every once in a while, I would tell you something that makes no sense. So we have the number one rule, the apiary manager is right. And I'll come to that slide where I say, okay, this is the way we're going to do it. And you're going, but why? Trust me, I am experienced at mistakes. And this whole club method is based on the idea that beekeeping is really a skill. It's really a craft. And somebody just has to lead and the other people follow for a while. And then you work your way up as journeyman faster and you get to say, we'll do it this way. We are going to follow this NICOT cassette method, which is pretty much the same as Genter and QC100. It has several names. If it uses a cassette, it's the same concept. I don't know of any major difference. And we are saying that some people say they can't learn in a classroom situation. Great. If you're an experienced person, we'll get to the concepts later. We'll just get started on the workshop. So we're going to make a bunch of decisions for you at the beginning. And we're going to keep explaining this each Thursday before the Saturday. How we ended up at this, I can tell you about all kinds of failures and reasons we don't use other methods to raise queens. This is the one that is going to work. Easiest one is go out and buy a queen probably, except they aren't always good quality. I think what I'm going to do with the documents is in addition to recording, because we're going to look at a lot of paperwork today, and I can also post them on a drive, or I can put them on a password protected page. I did it a couple days ago and I haven't figured out how to do it again. I will let you know by email, okay? After this, I will figure it out. I will sit down and just figure it out, probably tomorrow. And if you want to read, basically what I looked at it and I said, this guy is right. The NICOT Queen Rearing Book, The Non-Grafting Method for Raising Local Queens by Grant Gillard. You can get it on Kindle. And that's how I bought it. And it was comparatively cheap, $5 or $6. I don't know. Everything's gone up in price, but not as bad as it seems like it's $20 or $30 for every book you buy in beekeeping, even paperbacks. And he writes very well and very easily. He's very understandable. So that's where we're going. Basically, we're going to follow one method. And now I sent you out some timelines. Actually, I put them on the website, I think, SnoKingBka.org under Queen Rearing Workshop, I think. The workshop application is on its own page, but there's one that says Queen Rearing Workshop. It's under apiary classes, I think. I may reorganize that a little better, make it easier to find. But there's a timeline. It's these time points that really get you. And it's part of the great part of doing this as a team. In the next 2 months, when the bees really want to raise queens and we're working with them and the flow is on, we are going with the flow. This is what bees want to do, and we're just working along with them. We're just tricking each hive into not making 1 or 2 queens, but making as many as we want. So there's a long way to explain it and about 2 short forms. I think the very shortest form I sent out on the 1-page attachment. I think it started with, okay, this is what you need to do to join, and then a very short timeline, like 10 lines. I don't even know if they're full sentences. But there is a longer way to look at it because it does cover almost 2 months by the time you make sure that your queen is in good shape. Now, why do you not just take a cell where the queen hasn't even emerged yet and just stick it in half your hive? Well, what happens is there's not a great rate of return on virgin queens that have come out of the cell and they need to fly out and mate. There's a lot of predators out there. They can get confused. 25% never come back from the mating flight. bad weather can happen. And even if she got out for a mating flight, it may have rained her out and she couldn't mate. Something could go wrong with the queen. So if you tie up half your hive with a queen who fails, she's no good at the end. You look at her mating pattern, she's terrible. If you do that and you've taken her and put her with just a couple frames of your brood over to the side in a nuke and you proof her there, you have let the rest of your hive keep building up, making new wax. You need new wax every year, right? After you've been in beekeeping a while, you realize you need new wax every year for the bees' health and for a lot of reasons. And you didn't get the honey production. So now you're going to have to feed the bees more. Plus, you didn't get the honey that you have put out all these hundreds, possibly even thousands of dollars for, and you're not getting a return on investment. So it is easier to follow these timelines and take the queens out. I mean, easier. It's better return on investment. I kind of have to use the economics business term. If you do that, putting queens with a few, 2 frames of brood, 3 if you're really generous, and some stores, and letting that queen sit there while she goes out to mate, comes back, shows you she lays well, and then you can take that little nuke and merge it with the hive you want to put her into. Maybe it is a large split. We've already talked about, so there's a lot of forms here. That one you're just looking at, it's your, where are we in this process form? And we'll talk about that each week. But the sign-in log is important. Journeyman service credits. And if you ask me, how many hours did you do? I'm just going to photocopy that and send it to you. I don't have time to calculate people's hours. Sorry, you're on your own. You get to fill out your own journeyman service log, but I can help you that way. We need to do a lot of things. We need to do shelf labels, would you believe? We need to label everything so that we can find it. Now, there's, well, I don't know, maybe 20 people on here that came to this meeting. In the course of a queen rearing workshop, especially people who come to see, hey, would I be interested in this next year? Is this the only time I know that I can get here in this couple of months to see what's going on in the Maltby Apiary? For when you count all those people in, easily 40 people can come. That's not, and 40 people, if we tell them, go find a, bring me a telescoping lid, is kind of a big thing. But suppose I tell them that I need them to bring me a shim, or I need a inner cover, and I need 10 frame or 8 frame. We have shelf labels that actually need to go on at the beginning of this project, or people will be lost. They won't be able to help. And we'll go through all the names of the types of equipment, which is really kind of neat in case you didn't know what people mean by a resource or support hive and queen castle. And we go through some mini nukes, mini mating nukes, things like that. You learn a lot if you didn't already know it. And I can tell you what I like and don't like, because we use all these different types of equipment. And mating nukes especially, when you get to that part, there's a lot of different equipment that you can try. Some of it sounds like it would save you money, and sometimes it doesn't. In the interest of helping you with that, I have a glossary and I have 3 slides today, and I will make sure it gets out to everybody typed up. And then it will be in there will be a apiary book that things are in, the timelines. The sign-in log might go on a clipboard because that usually works better. But the glossary and apiary map and mating nuke log, and I'll show you really quickly what those are. They're absolutely essential. At the end of the season, each year we have improved based on the notes we took. So I think I sent you this on the bottom half of the 1-sheet attachment that I sent out. And we are, let's see, we've already actually started prep and inventory. Karen's come out and helped, and Sarah Sundin and people, when they can, they come out and help. But now we have to get serious. We're a week in advance. And we have to start this week. We have to get totally prepped because Yeah, we actually, it takes us 2 weeks. It will take us 2 weeks to get. This week will be the 26th. The 3rd, we will start, we'll have to get serious. And then the 10th, we set up something called a cell builder. And by that time, we will have had 3 meetings. So it will make sense what a cell builder is and what we're doing. And then, so read through this. It doesn't have to make all sense at all at once. The glossary is these abbreviations, MN, mating nukes, QC, queen cells. It's important that you not have to write everything out longhand. This isn't just for me. It's because there's a certain amount of paperwork you have to do. So this Saturday, I don't know if I sent this out. I will send this out. Do it tonight. The to-do list. And each week I do a to-do list for Saturday. You're going to sign in. You just sign the waiver. We are going to fill out the apiary map. We have enough different hives and enough different locations that if somebody needs to go put the grafting bar in, they need to know which hive they're going to. We can put numbers on there, but it saves a lot of time. And we do put the numbers and letters on. But it saves a lot of time if you have an idea of these are where we put the hives with queens, these are where we put the hives without queens, and these are where this is where we put the hives with young queens. We're going to group types of hives together better than we did in previous years. I had a theory that absolutely didn't work out. We will put the same types of hives together. The parent donor, the queen that's donating the eggs, and the resource hives that are donating brood and stores and such, they're going to go together. To do that, I figured, oh, well, while you're all coming out on Saturday, we'll just demonstrate how to move a hive. I'll close one up the night before, and with a hive carrier, if anybody would like to see it, if you're out there, show you how we move a hive. We need to organize that shed, because if we have, and it easily will be like 40 people coming through, and not all every Saturday, which is part of why I said if you could sign up on Sign Up Genius, it kind of gives me an idea how the parking is going to work. We can put 5 or 6 small cars in the driveway. There is some parking out on the street. There's actually a lot of parking that a friend, but you have to walk a little ways to get here. She's like 3 houses down, and she says, hey, you could always use her place to park. You have big trucks and such. We need to label everything. Hives get labeled, equipment gets labeled, everything, because it's like 40 people coming through. And otherwise, we're always trying to figure out where things are. And we did that the first year or so. We also need to inventory and sort the grafting equipment. We will need that in very few weeks. And if I need to order some, I need to know. I think we have enough, but we need to make sure. Hive cards. Every colony in a stack, and actually every colony, when the queens have their own little tiny nuke colony, every one of them has to have a card on it that tells us where the queen came from, when she was put in there, what her age is. Are we so that we know whether we're looking for eggs, larvae, brood pattern. We need to know. And the way to do that is to write it on a card with the best shorthand we can. All the time, midweek and on Saturdays, we need to keep putting syrup on. Every hive we have that's involved in the mating project is going to be one that could benefit from being fed. And it'll make sense when you get here. Why? If you just split your hive in half and let the bees make their own queen in one side, you'll lose that honey production. And actually, you're probably going to have to feed syrup in the fall anyway, if you split your hives down too much, too early, especially when the flow is coming on. And the flow is going to be here before we know it. The weather is warming up. We always need to be doing cleaning off bottom boards. There's extra scraping, but it's not really important. A lot of it's not important. Some of it is equipment that we're going to use very soon. So it would be a good idea to do it. And this apiary binder that I was talking about, we got to make sure that everything we need is in here. Blanks, log sheets, instructions for anything. And it's a good resource when you're out there, you're trying to remember, what am I supposed to do? And how am I supposed to do it? So the waiver, I think I did get the waiver onto the one page on the website. I will work on getting it in a really accessible place. And then here's the sign in and out log. You don't need to really put your email. You need to put enough. This is more for you than for me. That last column, here we go. Date, first name, last name, email. You only need it to make sure I got it. Because a lot of people, I don't have a fancy database program where I put in your name and everything auto-populates. And that's a little confusing to people. And we now have, I'm sure we've got 1,000 people whose information has been entered in the database. We've already issued something like 600 certificates, and a lot more people than that have taken classes and joined over the years. And I don't have the fancy software that auto-populates the form as soon as I put in your name. So I need to send this to you, and I need to know that I have your email. Because there's some people that just pay the dues or the fee and they don't fill out the form, which I understand, but you might have actually filled it out when you took some other class. The important thing about this for you, those of you who have earned apprentice, is that last column. Are you mentoring, presenting? Are you claiming credits for that? And actually, there's a couple of opportunities if you want to take over and explain Varroa treatments or something like that. We will do that right after the queen rearing workshop. After we get through this, then in July, mid-July, and then throughout the summer, people would really like to see that. And we want to do a couple of things called a UBO assay and a Harbo assay, which is related to queen rearing, but I don't think we can do it during this 8-week period. If we have time, we can. Okay, glossary. I will send this out. It's a little overwhelming, but we'll be filling out these cards, and they're about the size of a 3x5 card that go on each hive. And it looks like gobbledygook when you read it the first time. People who came out last year, you know what this says. You know that when you're reading that little 3x5 card inset, it says mating nuke cell builder, and we're going to use the term resource support hive this year for ones that we're stealing stuff from, like larvae, brood, the eggs that we are, the very, very young larvae that we are actually grafting, stores, drawn foundation, and we're snitching. Okay, that's a resource support hive. Then the queen color in any mating nuke, wouldn't be one in a cell builder, but in any resource support hive, we're often storing a queen in there as well. And we need to know her color. I will actually send that out because we need to decide what yellow, amber, striped, black, gray, cordovan. We need to know what those colors are. And we already have a cordovan queen. Actually, notice there was one already this year. Odd color. Then it's a good idea to mark on the hive card that whether it's westerns or deeps, and whether the stack is single, double, triple, high, you can put a lot of information on this hive card. Okay, you can look at the hive and you can see this, but on the other hand, we collect these at the end of the season and we can take the information off them. But some of the most important information we need to know right on the hive when we're looking at the hive, what action was taken and what inspection notes somebody put down last time. Okay, the date they assembled, whatever the hive is, especially mating nukes, the date of assembly is important. Emergency cells reduced, that's important. You need to do that probably 4 days afterwards is good with the mating nuke. You want to make sure that the bees that are left there waiting for a queen to be introduced don't decide to make their own queen. And but they are likely to do that if they can find an eclosing egg, a very small larva. And you can't leave that in there. You've got to smash that queen cell. May only be the size of a queen cup. It's not fully drawn out yet. But having someone know that 4 days after the date of assembly, you have to smash the emergency cells. And then sometimes you just put the queen in, you install her as a cell or as an emerged queen. She could be a well-mated queen. And this is where you can make notes. And the next person who walks up out of 40 some people will know. It did emerge, that cell emerged or it didn't. And sometimes there's a note there, the cell didn't emerge. So we put in a queen from another seller. Their supersedure. We always seem to have extra supersedure cells somewhere, and they're so fat and big, sometimes we just go ahead and use them as well as the ones we're grafting. So this is a long list. It's important, and I'm going to go through it as we need those terms. But under like queen cells, we need a description, not just emerge, but if we can, we need to know if it looked like it never emerged, or was the side chewed away. That when the side of a queen cell is chewed away, that tells you something. If it's opened, neatly cut open, the queen emerged in good health. Flap hanging, again, the same. She probably emerged in good health. Oh, and here's the colors down here. I'm going to get pictures of that so we know. That helps because sometimes a queen gets replaced. There are two queens in there, and we didn't know there were. And it's a bit of a surprise when you see an all black queen and you had an amber the last time you looked the week before. That can be really useful. So I will put this is more of the terms we'll be using. And they actually help with understanding how to fill out the hive cards. And you can learn as you go, but it just is a little easier if we take this glossary, put it in the book, and people try not to write out everything longhand. Hey, if longhand works and you don't have time to go look up the abbreviation, that's fine. But it would be easier to fit it on that little hive card. Then there comes a point where we need to know how many mating nukes, and we number them, 1 through however many, 20, 30. We need to know that on what date, in what number nuke, we saw the queen had emerged. Flap hanging, again, this is looking at the queen cell, and we'll cover that right before you need to know it. That's one of the advantages of having these Thursday night sessions. And I don't want anybody to lose with all this paperwork the idea that every queen rearing system will do the same. So if you decide you want to try something completely different than this, you're still going to try to follow these steps. You're going to induce a queenless state, and you're going to give the workers female fertilized eggs. Let them either build out the queen cells around the ones you gave them, that the eggs that were already closing when you graft, or you just let them raise their own. You're going to, if you want big, fat, happy, robust queens that probably will mate well, you're going to provide great nutrition so that you have a strong nurse bee population who are going to provide the best care possible to those queen larvae before they cap them over. And they even stuff that queen cell with extra royal jelly before they cap her over and she turns into a full-fledged queen. And you will move those capped cells. If you find that your hive is swarming, obviously you're going to take the frames of capped cells out, unless you try smashing them. But if you miss one, the hive will swarm anyway. So at about day 13 in development, we move those into mating nukes. That's the thing that we change and we control. More queen cells, and we have to mate every queen separately because 2 queens in a hive doesn't last very long. Except sometimes in the spring, right now, you may see 2 queens in a hive, a mother-daughter pair. That's called a perfect supersedure if a hive does that. Evaluate, and then we finally evaluate the brood pattern before we put that queen into tying up a whole big hive. We're so efficient, we're going to get more honey production and actually get more queens more efficiently that way. So this is posted, I believe. If not, it will be. This is the long form. So we're going down to like day 46 to get to end before the 4th of July. So that's 2 pages. And then here's a shorter form. And I hope you're noticing that this is on Excel. Excel, you can click and drag and it puts in the days for you and it puts in the day of the week. Now, why are we starting with -17? Because we're prepping and we are going to calculate our days on when the egg was laid. Day 0, the egg is laid. Day 4 is when the egg should be eclosing into a larva. And it might be a day off, it might take a day longer, that's possible. And then from then on, we are doing development of the queen in our day numbers going down. And when she mates, and if you read this, and you have it you have it on the website. And then I can also email it out, but I think using a link or on the website is the best way to go. Separate emails where I put this out, I think it's hard for people, but I can do it, especially if you really want that. Email me, let me know. And we will learn a lot of things when we're actually working hands-on. This is a frame of bees, and that's a measurement, a deep frame of bees. People say, yeah, that looks like about 1,000 to each side. And that's pretty packed on there. Definitely 1,000 to each side. Some people say more. I said the apiary manager is always right. There's a few oddities about working with nukes in very, very small hives. You always do some things the same. And again, I'll send this out. You always, when you come up to any hive, even a small nuke, you look at the outside before opening. One of the fun things about this is on the mating nukes, you will be able to tell which queens have successfully mated without even opening. The activity at the openings tells you we have a queen, and they are in full spring mode, and they're going to build up because their queen is laying and she's got pheromones and they're ready to go. You can tell just from the activity at the front. It's really kind of fun. But always, when you come up to a hive, you observe the outside, right? Maybe check the slide out board, listen to the bees, and as soon as you've cracked the lid all open, smell the hive. Now, these hives are so small, you really should never have to smoke them. Okay, maybe when we're raiding the resource support hives and we're taking their brood out and taking their resources, okay, we may have to intimidate the bees a little and drive them down a little so we can snitch. But in the small hives, there's no reason to smoke. But if you would like to spray a little bit of water, we have spray bottles. We are being very, very careful about queens. And because this is a queen rearing workshop, and you'll see what the next thing I'm going to say, you will see young queens are very flighty. I mean, they're like, I guess we make fun of teenagers, but that's what they are, is they just kind of jittery and jumpy and they don't stay in one place. They're always active. Okay. Because of that, we have to be a little bit careful when we take hives apart. Whenever you lift even the lid off, you turn it over and check for bees on it. Turn it upside down, place it on the ground. I will go through this on Saturday especially. And then when you take frames out, if you take frames out, first thing is you keep them over the hive until you are sure there's no queen on that frame. I would never put a frame, especially in a queen rearing workshop, on the ground. You don't want bees on the ground, particularly until you know if a lot of even the mating nukes and the big hives are going to have queens in them. You don't want to end up with a queen on the ground. Having bees on the ground is already a problem because when you kill bees by stepping on them, you set off alarm pheromone. And we have a lot of people, and we might be opening a lot of little hives. No point in upsetting the bees. There's a way to stack the woodenware. I call it kitty corner. That you have less chance when you put a box down of crushing a queen, and actually if you crush fewer bees if you stack in a certain way. So I'm going to show this the first day, and if you miss it the first Saturday, we'll be going through it again later, and I'll say, okay, I really want you to do this, even though it seems a little neurotic. Trust me, a young queen and even well-established queens will frequently run to the bottom of the box you've just picked up, to the bottom of the frames and hang there and then drop. There are ones that do that. They are hiders. And there are queens who are so laid back, everything's fine. They don't see any reason to run. We're not using smoke, they shouldn't. But especially when we get into the mating nukes, you will see the young queens behave differently. Forget that queens after they're mated don't fly. Ha! They hop, they jump, they jitterbug. I don't know how to explain what they do, but they are really, really difficult. If you see a queen, we're going to try to always have a nuke by any hive. It can be an empty nuke. That's the box. We're going to have it over to the side. And when you find a queen on a frame, just take her and put her over in that nuke right away. She's safe. She's out of the way. Now you can move faster going through the hive if you want to. You worry less about her getting crushed. Do not pick up the queens in this workshop. I know they do it on the internet, but they're doing mated, established, hey, everything's okay, older queens. We have lots of queen collectors, and you can try them out. This is actually another good thing is you can try out like 3 or 4 different types of queen collectors. I have my favorite. I'll show you why it's my favorite, but other people have a different one. And it's something that's kind of neat to try them all out. We will be working with 8-frame woodenware, and it doesn't match up. You'll see what I mean when you get here. And you'll end up sometimes with burr comb if you're not careful how you put the hives back together when you stack a colony. All of this is, as a club, helps we avoid what are the roadblocks when you run into on your beekeeping journey. There's the costs. I mean, if you bought one of every grafting tool and one of every queen collector and one, it costs money. Might as well come and use the club equipment and find out if you like it or don't. It's if you can do Grant Gillard's book, you can follow it on your own. But it is difficult, and all you have to do is forget steps and you go, oh no. And sometimes you can't figure out why something didn't work. But as a group, we can do that. We can share our insights and our talents, including heavy lifting, the record keeping. I know everybody hates record keeping, but it really does help any brave person. And if you're a little OCD, and if you think about things and you have good discussions, you're welcome too. We're a safety net for each other, especially on those critical time points, or something screws up on the graphs, and the midweek person can redo the graph if something goes wrong. I don't know what gets chilled. Somebody forgets to. There's a queen in there. Oh my goodness, that's the worst. Is somehow you ended up with a rogue, that extra emergency queen cell that you were sure wasn't there, and you lose all of your grafts because they won't raise out queens if there's a queen already in the hive. It's just interesting how the bees know. And we are doing enough queens that instead of getting through the whole procedure and finding out you didn't get a queen that mated well, is well proofed, she's a dud, we'll have enough that we can make that by bulk production, make it right. And we cover each other's mistakes. When I'm actually doing the hive demo, so some of the mistakes I don't want people to make is when you are taking out your first frame or any frame, making sure that this person has really heavy duty gloves on, which I've got some latex ones that are a little bit on the thicker side, work for a lot of people, not super thin. And I really recommend you try for that. Try using them because you do have better feel and everything. But even with the leather gloves on, see how this person in the picture is putting their like thumb and pointer finger down. And when they do that on each side of the hive, the bees will move out of your way. If you just kind of slide your fingers down, bees have 50,000 or so roommates. They have no problem moving out of the way if you kind of bump them. And then you know when you lift up that you have at least your finger width is at least bee space. You're not going to squish or roll or rub any bees against each other. So we're going to be careful about that, partly because we have these jittery queens in small nukes, and we need to make sure we don't lose queens for that. So I hope with all this paperwork, I hope this doesn't sound too overwhelming. We'll get started with the prep work. And we will be looking at a lot of this equipment when we're organizing the shed, a lot of the names of it and such. The handbook, that was talking about the handbook, and then we can make sure that everything's in here that we think we could ever need. And sometimes you just want to look at that queen wheel again, or you want to look at the QC 100 instructions. That's the cassette system. This one is called the QC 100. It's the Man Lake version of the Nycot Genter. Labels, and the labels are going to be nice, big. This is 8.5 by 11, nice, big, so people can see where the queen excluders are. And if you don't know what an emery shim is, you will know when you go in there. You will learn if you didn't already know. Propolis collection. Some people don't know the difference between a propolis collecting sheet and a queen excluder. That's kind of important to know because the bees can't, even worker bees can't get through a propolis collector. The grafting equipment should be in one place. We have a lot of labels. Things that we still need, and I hope I'm not running too long, I'm almost finished. We still need a good lighting system. I have LED flashlights. Some people bring their headlamps when we get to the actual grafting, so you might look around. A stand, like this woman here has a stand. I was wondering if I could use a music stand. I got a music stand. Typing stands used to be really popular. Cookbook stands. We need something that will support deep frames. Because quite often we are using deep frames, deep or Western, whichever the queen laid in. And we need extra plastic nuke boxes for a number of reasons, partly because you never want to, once you find the queen on a frame, the easiest thing to do is to just take her out of the hive, set her over to the side, and finish everything else you were going to do in the hive, and then put her back. And we need leftover varroa treatments. Often people buy a huge package of them. And when you buy a huge package, if you're not going to use the last one, save them for us, because going out and buying it's now 10 different varroa treatments is not realistic for the club to do. And we have people already, we have one volunteer who can come noon and later, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And is there anybody else who could come midweek and might be interested in getting in touch with her? That's wonderful. Actually, yeah, it's Debbie, right? I don't think I'm confused. In the chat, you could start mentioning if you could do that. There's a few other things that we do. I think these are notes I don't have to go over right now. Yeah, I think it'd be confusing if I don't stop. Here's a picture of the hive card. The hive card, I talk about it as if you know, the hive card goes on, and we are no longer using Ziplocs. We have a much better system. It's called a job ticket pouch. And this is small scale. This isn't the largest here. I think this might be 2023. We end up making a lot of mating nukes, and it might look like chaos. We're going to get a little more organized this year, but all that paperwork is actually going to help. All the labeling, the hive cards is going to help. And this is my reasoning for how we are going to get in 8 weeks, we are going to get through this complete queen rearing plan. If there's a lot of interest, we can start a second round, but it's a little difficult to keep track of your time points and keep everybody going together. But I don't mind doing it again after July 4th if people are interested enough to do it. Got to get a group together. And I want to stop talking because that's enough talking. I hope that everybody's willing to get going on this adventure together and sort of trust that we'll get it set up. And then each Thursday we could talk about what we're going to do. In this case, a lot of it's set up, a lot of it's prep, organization, so that we can all work on whatever schedule we can come on. I will stop the recording. Thank you so much. And I'll be sending this out. The link to the recording, as well as I will figure out how to either put it on the website or on a drive link, or maybe email attachments will work the best. We'll see what works. Let me know.